What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today I'm going to be talking about the 10th deal that I ever made in real estate. And this deal was actually on a fourplex, and turns out this deal was the biggest mistake that I've ever made up to this point in my investing career. So I'm going to talk about what I look for in the property, how I came to the decision to pull the trigger on it, and what I did that literally has been the biggest mistake. And I'm hoping that will help you to avoid this same mistake. So let's jump into it. In order for you to fully understand this deal, I need to tell the backstory on it. So with this deal, I was at a situation in life where I'd already purchased a lot of real estate, and I had gotten to a point where I was a little bit complacent. I hadn't picked up a deal in a minute, and I was really getting thirsty for a deal. And so I was out looking, and I connected with a guy named Z. Now, I did a video way back when. It was actually the first YouTube video that I ever did. I'm gonna post the link right here, but it was an interview I did with Z. Now, what's so cool about Z is he actually owns over $14 million worth of real estate. And so the video I did with him, I went up, I looked at all his real estate, I interviewed him, and we talked about some of the things that he's done to be able to acquire all of that real estate. So if you want to check that out again, go check that link. But I learned a ton from Z. I also found out that he had a couple fourplexes that he was wanting to sell. And I actually think I found this out before I went and did the interview with him. And so with these fourplexes, I fell in love. Now, one of the fourplexes was beautiful. It was a lot newer, it was really nice, had vaulted ceilings upstairs, and it was just an incredible property, and I was hooked. However, I thought the rents were already about as high as they could get. I thought maybe I had a little bit of wiggle room, but they were about there. He also had this other fourplex right next to it that was a little bit older, but still an awesome fourplex. And again, rents were good, but they might have had a little room to move. So I ran my numbers on these two fourplexes. I talked to Z, we went back and forth, and he told me he was willing to sell them to me at $618,000. Now, I still remember I shook his hand. I said, Z, that sounds great. Let's do this thing. Now, what happened is I went home, I pulled up the numbers, and I was getting about a 9% cash on cash return with the current rents that he had the property at. And I thought, oh, maybe I could get to 10. But at that point, I was super set at holding to a 15% cash on cash return. And even though I loved them, even though I thought they were beautiful properties, I said, you know what, this is where rents are at. I don't know this area of town very well. I'm not sure that I'm gonna be able to get them up to where they need to be. And so I went back to Z, I called him the next day and I said, Z, I'm so sorry, man. I hope you can forgive me, but I just don't feel comfortable going through with this deal. I don't think the rents I'm gonna be able to get where I need them to be for the kind of return that I'm wanting. And I bailed on the deal. Now at this time, interest rates were at like 4.25 or 4.5, and rents had been kind of stagnant, all right? They were starting to go up a little bit, but the truth is I wasn't watching the market as close as I should have been. I'd gotten a little complacent, so I passed on the deal. Now, in the next 6 months, I got into a place where I had another property that I wanted to sell. I decided I was going to sell it and I was going to use a 1031 exchange. But I was having a real hard time finding property. In that 6-month period, rents here in Idaho Falls had gone nuts. I don't know what happened. It was a really weird situation, but I feel like everyone realized, holy cow, we need more housing. We can bump rents. We can afford to do this. And so rents were going crazy, on my units included, where I was getting them up substantially higher with any new leases that we were signing. And so I'm in a place where I'm like, holy cow, I should have bought that deal from Z. And now I've got this 1031 exchange. I'm not finding any property. I'm gonna call Z up and see if I can still put this deal together. So I reached out to him, and he had already sold my favorite fourplex. So the one on the right, it was gone, never to be sold to me again. And so I was super bummed. However, the one on the left was still for sale. He was willing to sell it. He doesn't really like realtors, so it was all off market. So I went, I talked to him. He was bumping the price a little bit. Originally, he was going to give me both for $618,000, and the one was probably worth quite a bit less than the other one. But he said, you know what, Chandler, I'll sell this one to you for $300,000, which still was a pretty good deal. And I said, you know what, Z, let's do it. I knew I could get the rents up. He'd already got the rents higher in that one a little bit, but only 6 months had gone by. However, it was a really weird time because interest rates shot up through the roof. So now my interest rate was like a 5.7 on this fourplex when I could have got a 4.25, 4.5, literally only 6 months before. And I know that's hard to believe, but something crazy had happened where things had just really bumped up in that couple month period. I looked at the numbers and I'm like, well, with a 1031 exchange and with where I think I can get rents, I think it's worth it. So I ended up pulling the trigger on this fourplex at a higher interest rate, at a higher purchase price, and not in the deal with the fourplex that was right next to it that I absolutely loved. And so after being through evictions, floods, all kinds of issues with my properties, and honestly, my management company takes care of most of those. But after all of that crap I've been through, the biggest mistake that I had made at this point in my investing career was passing on those two fourplexes. And looking back, it's 2020 vision. And I know we sometimes feel like, oh, I missed out on the deal of the century. And that's just life. You've got to move past it. But I learned a valuable lesson. First off, I was not as knowledgeable as I should have been on the current market. I should have seen that rents were starting to increase. I should have known that I could have gotten that property to a place where the rents would have been worth it and it would have been an incredible deal for me. And I shouldn't have chickened out and passed on the deal. There's a big difference between passing on a deal that's good, where you know the numbers work, and passing on a deal where the numbers don't work, but you just buy it because you like it. With this property, had I known the market, had I recognized what a big role those low interest rates were playing, and had I have just taken the time to say, hey, what is the true market in this area? What direction is it going? Will I be able to get my desired return? If I would have put in the time instead of just looking at the deal and say, you know what, it's not a total knock it out of the park, 20% cash on cash return, so I'm gonna pass. If I would have really gotten into it and recognized the true value that property had, I wouldn't have passed on an incredible deal. And I'd have 4 more units that I own right now. And the big lesson that I'm hoping you will get out of this deal is that when you know that a property meets your numbers, it meets the criteria, you know where you can get rents, you've got to have the confidence to be willing to pull the trigger. I'm hoping after watching this video that you figure out exactly what you need your numbers to be at. You know your market, you know where you can get rents, and you are ready so that when the right deal comes, you can pull the trigger. Because I have huge regrets about missing out on that combo deal. Now, it still worked out great. I 1031 exchanged the home. I got this property, and I actually did a video walkthrough and talked about the numbers and the property, and I'm gonna put that link right here. And that video, for some reason in the last month, has just started going crazy. It's getting about 2,000 views every 48 hours. And I thought it was a cool video when I filmed it, but that'll give you a full walkthrough of this property, how I did the 1031 exchange. So if you wanna know more, you can click the link above and go watch that walkthrough. However, the biggest thing I want you to get out of this video is when you find a deal that works, you've gotta have the guts to jump in on it, because you'll regret it if you don't. Now, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to helping you to create a huge passive income for yourself. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!